Hey, health junkies! It's time for the Health Fix. Join your host, Dr. Janine Krause, as she gives you a dose of what you need to know and do right now to take control of your health from the inside out, to rebel against aging, look damn good, fight stress, and laugh every day.
Hello, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of the Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause, and today I am super excited to have one of my best friends, Melissa Jorgensen, here to chat about time management and getting in workouts and healthy food, plus also having enough time for fun and the family. So, without any further ado, I am going to introduce you to Melissa. Melissa, say hi.
Hello.
So she's here hanging out with me today. And so Melissa is married. She has 2 kiddos. She's got a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old, and she is able to make it all work where they're eating healthy, vegan at that. And also she's getting in her workouts, her runs, and she manages to still stay sane for the most part in all of this. And so the reason I wanted to bring Melissa on is because I get from my patients a lot, I can't juggle the kids and work and healthy eating. And you know what? I have nothing to say because I don't have kids. I mean, my golden retriever is enough to handle, and I, get my stuff done. But I just wanted someone to come on that can talk about how to juggle the family in addition to putting healthy food on the table and not relying on convenience foods. So, Melissa, tell me a little bit about how you started to put everything together in terms of the family and healthy foods, and what do you do? Just give the audience like a little rundown in terms of how it all started and what you did.
Right. So I was really fortunate because I had some pretty good routines established before I became a mom. So that helped a lot. But then after I became a mom, it was a big eye-opener because all of a sudden my time wasn't my time anymore. I had this human that depended on me for everything. And I decided early on that I was going to have to take care of myself so that I could take care of him when my first was born, Leaf, who's now 4. And that meant asking my husband for help. It meant asking family and friends for help, and realizing that my taking time for myself to take care of myself wasn't selfish, but it was a necessity so that I could be a good human and a good mom and a good wife.
I think that's super important to mention, taking time for yourself, because I have so many moms that are like, I have so many people that depend on me. I can't take care of myself. Yeah, but if you don't take care of yourself, everything else falls apart. And so I'm saying moms, but dads too out there. I know that there's a lot of you that are doing the dad thing and really taking it to the next level. So it's really important that you're keeping yourself healthy in all of this.
Yes, it's crucial. And so I kind of realized that the morning is a really sacred time for me, and that's when I really need to focus on taking care of myself. So I wake up before everyone else. I get up at 5:30-ish most days and go downstairs, do my morning routine. I do some coconut oil in my mouth to just get my mouth healthy for the day. And then I usually have a cup of coffee because I have 2 children. So caffeine is a necessity right now in my life. And then I head out the door and I either go for a run or I go to the gym, which is a few blocks from my house. And I used to feel a little bit guilty because the baby would usually wake up right as I was leaving. I'd hear him start to cry. I feel guilty because my husband had to deal with taking care of the baby and getting ready for work. And then I decided I had to let that guilt go because I was going to be their caregiver the rest of the day. So I needed that time for myself. So there's mornings that it's really hard because I hear my little guy screaming as I'm running out the door. But if I take that hour or hour and a half before my husband goes to work to really make sure my needs are met, my physical needs in terms of exercise, then I come home and I am so much more present and less grumpy with the kids when I start work with them at 7:30. So that's a really big really big thing for me is taking that time in the morning. And it took a while especially after having a baby. You obviously need time to rest and you're up all night feeding. I still nurse pretty much all night, but it's in bed. But once you establish those routines, now I naturally wake up usually before my alarm clock. And if I'm not exercising, like I took a few days off this week, I was like, what do? I have all this time. So it's, once you establish the routine, it becomes habit and it becomes just part of your life, and you miss it when it's gone. I promise.
And when you say establishing routine, have you found that you have to have a certain amount of days? Because they always say it takes like 21 days to set a routine. That's why they have those 21-day fix programs and whatnot. For you, what have you found that in terms of setting routine? How long did it take you?
Well, I do one thing at a time. So I didn't like wake up one day and decide, okay, I'm going to be vegan. I'm going to start running. I'm going to do it. It was this process and choosing, one thing I wanted to work on at a time. So I would say it takes about 3 weeks to kind of have a habit, but for those to be more lifelong, sustainable, long-term type things, I would say 6 months of doing the same thing over and over before it's really just like part of who you are.
Mm-hmm. You guys hear that? Because everyone's stuck on these Whole30s and 21-day fixes and all this stuff. But yeah, I found the same thing. For me to get a routine, it really has to be something that's ingrained month after month after month. And I would agree that the 6 months definitely is something.
Yeah. And I think part of that too is that you can easily establish a 3-week routine. Like, I'm going to go running every morning, and it's, it's summer and it's beautiful and it's light at 4:30 a.m. if you live in Washington. And, but the true test comes when it's dark and it's cold and it's rainy and everyone else is sleeping. So why the heck would I get out of bed and go to the gym? So going through different seasons, and still maintaining those habits, going through the holidays and still maintaining those habits, I think that's when stuff gets real. So.
I would agree. So Melissa, tell me a little bit about how you set about your routines. Do you write things down? Do you have like a big whiteboard? Do you have a chalkboard? How do you plan it out so that there's the visual component?
Right. All of the above. I love making notes and lists. So usually on Sunday or on Saturday, I sit down and I look at the full week and I plan out my training. So I'm training for a marathon in June and an ultra in July. So I plan out my training for the week, and then I also try and plan out the meals for the week, and that keeps me from straying. And then each night I make a to-do list for the next day, and I'm like, maybe a little crazy, but it starts with, I write down 5:30 a.m., wake up, oil pull, drink coffee, and then I write my, workout, when I'm working out. And then even the everyday things, like every day at 7:30, I come home and I make the kids breakfast and I get everybody ready for the day. But I still write it out every night because it helps me to process my day and to check things off and feel accomplished. Yay, I made them oatmeal,
I think that's huge. I mean, There's something about having a list and checking it off that's so gratifying. But not only that, but having that list the night before, because I think a lot of us go into the day and we're like, oh crap, what was I supposed to do again?
Right.
I know I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
And actually, since you told me that you do that at night, I've started to do it, and it actually helps because then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to do this. It's just great time management. Mm-hmm. And I know, to be the devil's advocate here, that someone's probably out there going, oh God, I really have to write that at night. That seems horrible. But you know what? I think that it might be the most valuable thing because you know what's coming up. It doesn't stress your body because if we have predictable things that are going to happen, we're not going to go into fight or flight mode. Right. And we're also going to be better prepared. We're going to be on time. Uh-huh. So any of you who are 15 minutes late to everything you do, this is something you want to take note of, because I actually have a habit of almost 5 minutes to everything being late. And so
she does.
Yeah, see, there you go. I was 3 today to this. just for the record. So you've got your routine, you lay out the schedule, and you put everything, down there to the T. I mean, it sounds like very detailed. Do you write down your menu plan for, so you've got the menu plan out. Is that put somewhere in the house so that everybody can see?
Yeah, it's on the fridge. I try and have it on the fridge, and sometimes it changes. One thing I'm really working on right now is budgeting. We eat whole food, plant-based, and we like good food. So we kind of went for a while with Whole Foods every couple times a week. And so right now I'm really working on budgeting and still eating. I say eating like a boss. And so I'll write out the meal plan, and kind of towards the end of the week, you'll see, my meal plan will be whatever's left in the fridge, leftovers, and getting creative towards the end of the week. So it's saving me time and money, because I'm not making these extra trips to the store we want to have such and such meal. I'm well, we have quinoa, we have black beans, and we have cabbage and onions and garlic. I can make a meal out of that, and my kids are going to eat it because that's what I'm going to give them. And a lot of people say to me, how do you get your kids to eat this stuff? One, they've been eating it their whole lives. So I'm lucky in that, even in utero, they were getting used to the flavors that I eat. My 10-month-old is I think he would eat a raw clove of garlic if I gave it to him, because I eat so much garlic, and I ate so much garlic when I was pregnant. But saying that, my kids still sometimes, especially my 4-year-old, complains, I don't want quinoa, or I don't like quinoa. You did yesterday. So I just keep presenting it to them. And we might be having people well, do you cook? I do these detoxes, right? And people are how do I cook how do I cook all this for myself and then prepare a whole separate meal for my family? And I'm well, you don't. If I'm making something for that I don't think my kids will eat combined, I separate out the ingredients for them. So they'll have beans, and they'll have roasted veggies, and they'll have, whatever I'm eating, but maybe not put together. Sometimes kids don't like things mixed up. So, yeah.
I think that's a really good point that you're highlighting there, because I get that question a lot too from moms, because they're all right, anytime I'm changing my diet now, I'm also going to have to make something separate, so it's more work.
Right.
And the important thing that I try to get across too is no, everyone's changing.
Yeah.
And there is really no such thing as kid food.
Right.
Because all that really artificial colored junk that no one should eat that. That's freaking.
Yeah. If I wouldn't eat it because I'm trying to be healthy, why the heck would I give it to my kids? Because their health is really important to me. And so something I say a lot, not that I think everyone has to be vegan to be healthy, but I always say vegan is love, because we have a lot of emotions around food, and a lot of people want to feed their kids. I think this is also a grandparent thing, really stereotypical grandparent thing. It's oh, I want to show them love by giving them ice cream or pie. And I'm well, sometimes, yeah, that's okay. But on an everyday, in our everyday lives, I show my kids, one of the ways I show my kids love is by feeding them in a way I know that's going to be best for their body and their mind and their spirit. So.
That's huge. No, I agree. So one of the things I think that a lot of people struggle with is having the basics in the kitchen to just whip something up if they have an oh crap, I didn't plan kind of thing. Yeah. Or also so say someone's getting started and they're trying to make sure that they have always a healthy options with dinner, and they're kind of thinking ahead, and they're going to go to the grocery store and they're planning. What do you think should be as staples for the kitchen that you should have all the time?
Yeah. I always have whole grains. I store them in giant mason jars so I can see when we're running out. So I always have brown rice and quinoa and gluten-free oatmeal. And oatmeal isn't just a breakfast food. You can make it savory. Sometimes I make it savory for my kids for lunch or dinner. Always we have nuts and seeds available, and nut butters. And let's see, and beans for us as vegans. We always have beans or legumes. And then And then a tricky thing I like to do with my kids, if I don't have, like sometimes towards the end of the week, maybe we're running out of vegetables. We get most of our produce from a local farm on Tuesdays is the day we pick it up. So sometimes by like Saturday, Sunday, we're low. And instead of going out and buying a whole bunch of new produce on the weekend, I'll like add some spirulina to my kids' oatmeal or to our rice to get some microgreens in. So having like little things like that on hand, so grains and beans or legumes, tofu, and then some form of vegetable, whether it's fresh veggies or maybe something in your freezer that you have ready to go, or microgreens like spirulina or chlorella.
That's genius. Yes, I think that everyone should kind of have that backup plan because let's face it, there's definitely some crap I didn't plan ahead or someone ate extra. My husband's guilty of this. Like he eats me out of house and home some days. Yeah. You know? And so then you're like, okay, we were supposed to have 4 servings out of this. Uh-huh. So speaking of that portion and portion sizes and breaking that down, tell us a little bit about how you go about baking things ahead or cooking things ahead. Do you have like a weekend time slot and how long if you do that?
Yeah. So I go through seasons where I'm like really into food prep and I'll take like 2 or 3 hours on a Sunday and I'll prep, especially in the winter, I'll prep like a couple different soups or stews. I recently discovered my husband thinks that soup is too wet. So yeah, he's really into texture because his taste buds aren't that keen. So I'm making that soups. Like too wet soup. It's supposed to be wet. So, but I'll make like a curry and maybe some type of stew and maybe some type of veggie based soup on the weekend. And then I'll prep stuff for salads, like have everything chopped up and ready to go. I like to cook. I try and stay away as much as possible from canned beans or pre-prepared beans. I keep them in the cupboard for emergency situations. But so I'll cook a bunch of beans on the weekend, and I'll bulk cook, batch cook some rice and quinoa. Because those are things if you have in the fridge, like if you have quinoa and you have beans and you have veggies, and then you have like, tahini or anything that you could easily make a sauce out of or coconut amino acids, you have a meal. And if those things are already prepared, you don't even need to cook the veggies really. You can just heat up the grains and add the veggies in and stir it until they soften and then call it a day, So, yes, there's times when I do like massive amounts of food prep on the weekend and spend 2 to 3 hours doing that. And then there's times where I just kind of cook every day or cook every other day. Okay. I'll make a batch of soup and have it in the crock pot or curry. And with stuff like curry and soups, it's easy to add. Like if you have a curry made and it's in your crock pot and you have it with quinoa one night, you can have it with brown rice the next night or amaranth or any type of grain that you want. So.
Nice. So having a base plan and then modifying it as you go. Yeah. I actually do that myself. Yeah. I will typically make some type of veggie stew thing because my husband as well loves soups, but he likes them creamier. I think there's some weird component with that. I don't know. I blend a lot of veggies here. But oftentimes I'll have my base thing where, at my house we do eat meat. We will have I'll take a bunch of chicken breasts and I'll bake them all up or I'll cook them all up. Yeah. And then from there, then they get divided out to a barbecue kind of version or a teriyaki version or a whatever. Right. So one of the things I think that a lot of people might be thinking is okay, what does it look like if, say they don't want to dedicate 2 to 3 hours on the weekend and they want to cook every day or every other day. What does it look like when you plan things? How do you work it in? What time of day ends up?
Yeah, so maybe I'll kind of just go through my daily schedule. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I get up about 5:30. I'm at the gym or running by 6. And then I'm home by 7:30, and that's kind of when our day starts. And I'm feeding kids, and I'm getting diapers changed. I'm cleaning dog poop off the floor. That happens.
Awesome.
And then I we have the mornings I try and keep kind of flexible. I either have extra kids at my house, like my niece or friends' kids or whatever, because they have appointments. And I use that time to start prepping for dinner usually. So I cut up veggies and I maybe make the grains, or maybe if I'm making like a soup or a curry, then I'll make it, in the morning before I take my son to preschool. And I teach at the preschool a couple days a week. And so by the time I get home it's an outdoor preschool. And in the spring and summer, that's lovely. But in the winter, by the time we get home, we're wet, we're muddy, we're grumpy. We just want to get our jammies on and be cozy. So it's really amazing to have some type of food prepped all ready to go. And it really, if I do that in the morning, if it's all ready, I feel like I can be more present with my kids in the afternoon instead of being like handing my kid an iPad and being like, fine, just watch a show. I feel like I have the time and the energy to engage him in another activity or go to the park or something.
No, I think that's huge. Something to keep in mind. It boils down to, yes, time management. I'll give a little example of what I do. I wake up at 5. I go to the gym at 5:30 to 6:30. And then after that, I come home and I'll make breakfast combined with dinner. Pretty much every day I'll do that. And then when I come home in the evening, sometimes I'll throw something else on, like another component of it. So for example, like if, say, we decided that we wanted to do a stir fry, oftentimes in the morning I'll make the chicken, prep all that, and then I'll have the rice made at the same time while I'm making breakfast. Then when I come home, I throw the veggies in and boom, we're done.
Yeah.
And that's another way to think about making things, work for you, because this is something that's obviously going to work for you because, you can't just completely repeat Melissa's plan because you have a, different
right.
lifestyle.
Everyone's lifestyle is different, and like our schedule is kind of sporadic. My husband works full-time, more than full-time. And I work in addition to teaching, I'm also a health coach, and I work on the farm a little bit, and that we get our veggies from, and we host an exchange student. So I have kind of a sporadic schedule, and like everyone's schedule is really different. But so you do have to find a plan that works for you. There is no one size fits all. But the key to success is being prepared. And for me, that's writing everything down. And there's so many tools now. I don't have one yet. It's on my wish list, my Amazon wish list, but the Instapot. I have one of my clients is like rocking that, and she's making all these amazing vegan, oil-free, fancy things in her Instapot, and it's so easy. The number one small appliance I use is my Vitamix. I have at least one smoothie a day. And that's another great tool for getting greens into your kids. I have to fight my children out of my smoothies. Like, no, dude, you already ate.
You can't have my smoothie.
I just ran for an hour and a half. Let me eat this. But it's awesome because it's I'll put 3-4 cups of greens in it, and plus spirulina, and then whatever. I use the Vega protein powder, so there's also greens in that, and so. Having a blender for me is essential. Having a good blender. I went years with burning out these cheap, crappy blenders, and then finally got a Vitamix, and it was worth every penny. Well, it was a Christmas gift, so it was worth every penny of my parents' money.
There's something to be said about
right.
those. Blend Tech also is a really good one out there.
Yeah.
But both of those are killer. Plus, the Instapot thing is probably the coolest invention of this century. Well, at least let's go with this decade.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely helpful. Also, if you have a crock pots are nice. Instapots, same kind of thing, goes faster. And that's the thing with the Instapot. So those of you out there who are kind of wondering what the heck an Instapot is, it's just
it's like a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker, but faster.
Yeah, and it has all these fancy things you can do, start cooking my food at this time, so you can throw your food in the morning, and then you'll come home at 5:36, and you're like, oh, a warm meal. Wonderful.
No shame in using these
no.
things. You got to make things work. Also, one of the other things that I do a lot and think about for folks is using sheets, like your cookie sheets, and laying out your vegetables and roasting. I know Melissa does this too a lot with roasting and just making, if you're gonna make some veggies, why not take a whole bunch of them and make them all at once?
Yes. I try and always have like roasted veggies available in the fridge because usually kids love that too. And I play around with oil-free cooking, and so I've been using the silicone sheets to like slice up sweet potatoes for my kids, and they'll just like, well, the 10-month-old won't go in the fridge by himself, but my 4-year-old will go grab them out of the fridge, and they both love them. It's a great snack or to add to any meal, or
And that's a key component. If you've got a snack that's healthy, that's already cut up, ready to go, that's less stress on you.
Yes.
So making that part of your overall plan as well is absolutely key. So I think right now a lot of folks might be wondering, like, where do you get your ideas from in terms of recipes, in terms of planning? Because there's a lot of great meal planner apps and things of that nature. Have you dabbled in any of those apps, or tell us about even your favorite websites that you use?
So I don't do any of the meal planning apps. I have my own process for that I like to use. But I do, and I try and coordinate my eating with my training. So long run days, I obviously need quite a few more carbohydrates than other days. So I just sit down and I make like a grid on paper. Like I literally take a piece of like scratch paper that my kid colored on the other side, and I, make a meal plan on that for the week. But in terms of recipes, I love Oshi Glows. That's a really great website. Minimalist Baker has a lot of really simple, yummy things on it. Chris Carr is really great. She has a couple cookbooks out, and she has a great website with recipes. Who else? I use for family stuff, for kids stuff, there's, it's called Plant Power. I think it's Plant Powered Families. And they have a lot of like really, really healthy, but really kid-friendly recipes, so it's like remade mac and cheese that's gluten-free and vegan, and different types of veggie burgers and fries, that you can make. So my kids dig a lot of that stuff. But to be honest, most nights it's like, you kind of have your go-to meals, like, especially in the winter, we do tons of curry, tons of, I like to make this African peanut stew, which I use either peanut butter or almond butter or sun butter or whatever. And those are things that like I've just done so many times that I don't like follow a recipe anymore. It's just like throw it in. Same with like, there's this guy called No Meat Athlete. There's a blog, and one of his things I read a long time ago was like a grain, a green, and a bean. So like, if I try and if I don't know what to make and I'm like, what do we have in the fridge? I try and like kind of build meals around that, and then give people options for different sauces, so I might make a sauce with tahini, and I might make a sauce with like a peanut type sauce, or I'm really into Oli Kraut right now. It's a local sauerkraut brand, and they have all these like amazing flavors. So sometimes I'll just mix a big scoop of that into like a bowl of veggies and quinoa and beans and some spicy Oli Kraut, So, yeah.
Sounds yummy. I'm getting hungry. So for those of you who are not vegan, and you might be thinking, oh, she's talking about all this vegan stuff, and you're turning out or tuning out in that case. Honestly, it's the base of all your foods. Right. So all you have to do is add some meat product, That's gross meat product. Go get a bunch of Spam and add it to all of it.
No, really, like everything I make, you can make with meat. It's just choosing ethical meat and choosing healthy meat. That's the key. And making, if you're going to eat animal products, they should be like the garnish and not the main attraction, So always making veggies the main attraction, and anything else is kind of a sideshow.
That's how I roll it in my house. So one of the things that I was going to mention here is that I use there's a website called Precision Nutrition. And what they do is they give you portions in terms of what things look like and what it should look like on a plate. So if any of you out there are kind of going, I don't know how to meal plan, I'm really kind of, confused as to what to do, that's a great website, precisionnutrition.com. And they tell you, like, literally, each meal you've got to pick your veggies, pick your protein, pick this and that. And they've got some great guides. So I highly recommend checking that out. I've also pinned that on my Pinterest page, Dr. Janine Krause. I think it's Digestive Health and something. I'll have to figure that out. I'll put it as a link at the end of this for the resource page. I'll also put a link for Precision Nutrition as well. And so for those of you out there that are struggling with trying to juggle family and life and routine, just scheduling and laying it out, Melissa is a health coach. She is actively working with a bunch of folks, and her website is sweetbeats.org.
Yes.
And you can find her online. I'll put a link as well to her website so you can check her out. And if you're struggling, I refer patients to her all the time. She's great, and you do not have to be vegan. You do not have to be an ultra marathoner. None of that is a prerequisite for this. Please don't think of that. Melissa's great with helping anyone and everyone who is looking, who's looking to really set schedules and routines. And the reason I go to Melissa in this case is because I don't have kids, and I don't know how to juggle, all of the kids stuff. And that sounds terrible on my part, but I can juggle a golden retriever, no problem. But beyond that, it's really important. It takes it to a whole nother level because routines are key. We're cavemen. We need the routine. And what stresses most of us out in life, whether we want to admit it or not, is that we don't have a freaking routine. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know what's coming up the day, in the next day, what's coming up the current day, and things are thrown at you, all those curveballs tend to compound, and then you become slowly more and more stressed out, and you miss out on the fun and the family. And that's the most important thing in the universe is to definitely not become, a slave to just catching up every single day and playing catch up and running frazzled, because that's where you're going to have trouble, because you're going to end up getting pizza. You're going to end up going to McDonald's. You're going to end up skipping workouts because you didn't plan. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, planning sucks, but seriously, it is well worth your time. Melissa manages to, how many miles do you run in an average week?
Right now I'm like anywhere between 50 and like 65.
So she's running 50, 65 miles a week. She's got 2 kiddos. She's managing to put food on the table and have everybody happy in the home, in addition to having fun. And I mean, these guys are doing something fun almost every weekend. I can't even keep up. So nevertheless, I just wanted to do a podcast with Melissa to help and just really explain to folks just what it's like to and how to schedule. And I think I'm going to end this podcast by letting Melissa chat with you in terms of how she does it in her group. And she's got like a Facebook group, and you've got detoxes, and she's got all these different things. And I want her to plug herself a little bit here and tell folks ideally what you can do for them and how you can help them.
Yeah. So, I'm really passionate about obviously plant-based nutrition and movement, but not everybody I work with is an ultra marathon. Actually, no one I work with is an ultra marathon.
Not that I'm aware of.
And not everyone I work with is vegan. But so I do a couple different things. I have a 6-month program where I meet with a person either by phone or video or in person twice a month for 6 months. And that's really, like I said, I think 6 months is the time it really takes to establish lifelong routines. And so we talk about everything from nutrition to exercise to relationships and career and spirituality, because really being well is not just about eating broccoli or going for runs. So there's a lot of components. So that's one of the things I do. I do seasonal detoxes, and those are online, and it's usually like 15 days of, I provide a meal plan, and you are in a Facebook group, and I share extra information in that group, as well as the meal plan and the shopping lists, and then provide support and accountability for people in those groups. What else do I do? On this summer, I'm looking to coach a small group of women, like doing fitness training at my house a couple days a week. And then the thing I'm really excited about right now is a retreat in Guatemala and Livingston in November. It's November 6th to 10. Some friends of ours at the preschool actually decided they were done with the cold winters, and they bought this amazing eco resort in on the Caribbean Sea in Guatemala. And so we're going down in November, and it will be 5 days of yoga and walks to waterfalls and plant-based cooking classes. Probably some like cocktails in the evening as we prepare our dinner together. And so I'm really excited about that. I chose November because I wanted to. I love and hate the holidays. It starts getting gloomy here, and then there's every year I'm like, I'm not going to buy into the overconsumption, to the overeating, to the overdrinking, to the over purchasing of gifts, and every year I do. And so I was like, I'm going to go, and I want to take a group of women and get centered before we go into the madness of winter and of the holidays. And so if you're interested, it's on my website under retreats, and I would love to see you there. Or if you're interested in a 6-month program or one of my detoxes, you can also hit me up through my website.
Thanks, Melissa. So yeah, check out the link to her website that's going to be in the show notes for this episode. So you've survived another episode of The Health Fix, and I really appreciate y'all listening. And I am going to follow up this one with more on time management and some of the ways that I also work on planning out the day and really helping folks to get a schedule going so they don't stress themselves out. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into The Health Fix, the podcast all about taking control of your health, rebelling against aging, and having fun every day. A lot of patients ask me, do you think I'm aging too fast? So I created an evaluation checklist for you to see for yourself. Plus, I created a resource guide to help you slow down the aging process right now. You can find it for free on my website, drjkrausend.com. If you like this podcast, help get the word out to others by liking it and rating it. If you'd like more natural health tips and want to join our Facebook community where I interact daily, click on the Join Group button on our website at drjkrausend.com.